The struggle of a mother on an alien planet. Maria stood in the long line outside the Vorthen Employment Center, holding a small, crumpled resume in her tired hands. Her stomach was empty, her legs weak, but she couldn't afford to give up. Her 6-year-old son, Leo, was sick back in their tiny apartment, and she had no money left for his medicine. The aliens around her whispered and chuckled. A human, trying to find work here. What a joke. Their tall, scaled bodies loomed over her, their yellow eyes filled with disgust. Maria ignored them. She had learned long ago that humans were not welcome on Vorthen 6, a planet controlled by the rich and powerful Draxian race. But Maria had no choice. She had come here 5 years ago with her husband, who had believed that humans could build a future in the stars. That dream had died when he disappeared in a mining accident. Since then, she had been alone, doing whatever small jobs she could find to survive. But now, Leo was sick, and she needed real money. Fast. The alien employer, a short, red-skinned Prevaxian, looked at her resume and scoffed. No experience, no special skills, and a single mother. Ha! You won't last a day. Maria clenched her fists but forced herself to stay calm. Please, I'll do anything. Just give me a chance. The Prevaxian sneered. Humans are weak. We need strong workers. You should leave. Another rejection. Another door closed in her face. Maria stepped out of the employment center, her heart heavy with despair. She looked up at the dark sky of Vorthen 6. This planet was full of neon-lit towers, alien technology, and powerful corporations, but there was no place for humans like her. She walked through the crowded streets, past towering holograms of alien celebrities, past luxurious alien restaurants where she could never afford to eat. Every step felt harder than the last. How was she going to take care of Leo? As she turned a corner, she saw a group of human workers standing outside a small bar. They looked just as tired and broken as she felt. She recognized one of them, David, an old friend of her husband's. David's face lit up when he saw her. Maria, what are you doing here? She hesitated, looking for work, any work. David sighed. You know how it is. The aliens don't want us in good jobs. They only let us do the dangerous, dirty work. And even then, they pay us nothing. Maria bit her lip. I don't care. I just need a job. David hesitated, then lowered his voice. There's one place hiring, but it's not safe. Maria leaned in. Tell me. David sighed again. The old Vorthen mine. They say something bad happened there. Workers disappeared. No alien will go near it now. But a human businessman, Jack Carter, is looking for someone desperate enough to take the job. Maria's stomach twisted, disappeared, but she didn't have time to be scared. Leo needed her. Where can I find Jack Carter? She asked. David gave her an address. Be careful, Maria. The meeting place was a small, dimly lit office on the outskirts of the city. Maria pushed open the door and stepped inside. Behind the desk sat Jack Carter, a rugged-looking human in his 40s, with sharp blue eyes and a tired expression. He looked her up and down. You're Maria, right? She nodded. I need work. David told me about the mine. Jack studied her carefully. You're a single mother, aren't you? Maria's shoulders stiffened. Does that matter? Jack sighed. It matters because this job is dangerous. No one wants to do it. The last workers vanished without a trace. Maria's hands clenched into fists. I'll do it. Jack raised an eyebrow. Just like that. Maria swallowed hard. I don't have a choice. For a long moment, Jack didn't speak. Then, finally, he nodded. All right. Be at the mine at sunrise. Maria took a deep breath. She had a job. But deep inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stepped into something far more dangerous than she had imagined. 2 seconds, a job no alien dares to take. Maria stood at the edge of the Vorthen mining facility, staring at the massive entrance carved into the black rock. The air smelled of rust and something else. Something old, something wrong. She had expected the mine to be busy, full of workers, but it was silent. No sound of machines, no voices, nothing. Just the cold wind howling through the abandoned structures. Jack Carter stood beside her, arms crossed. His face was unreadable. "You can still walk away." Maria shook her head. "I need this job." Jack sighed. "Then listen carefully. You'll be operating the mining bots. The company lost a lot of money when the aliens abandoned this place, so they need humans to restart the work." Maria glanced at the dark tunnel ahead. Why did the aliens leave? Jack hesitated. Then he said, "They got scared." Maria frowned. "Of what?" Jack didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a small wrist device. "This controls the bots. Follow the map, do the job, and stay inside the marked zones. If something feels wrong, don't go investigating. Just call me." Maria's heart pounded, but she nodded. She stepped forward. The mine swallowed her whole. Inside, the tunnel stretched deep and endless. The walls shimmered with blue crystal veins, pulsing softly, like the mine itself was breathing. Maria activated the first mining bot. A mechanical hum filled the tunnel. For a while, everything seemed normal. The bots drilled into the crystal, gathering resources. Maria checked the controls, making sure they didn't overheat. But then, the lights flickered. Maria looked up. The shadows shifted. She turned quickly, her breath catching in her throat. Was someone there? Nothing. Just darkness. She exhaled slowly. It's just my imagination. The bots kept working. Dust filled the air. Maria checked the time. 4 more hours to go. Then, a whisper. Soft, distant, but clear. Maria froze. It was a voice speaking a language she didn't understand. She spun around, gripping the wrist device like a weapon. The tunnels were empty, completely empty. Her radio crackled. "Maria." She jumped. It was Jack. Maria took a shaky breath. I heard something." Jack's voice was calm but firm. "Stay near the bots. Keep working." Maria swallowed and nodded. Maybe it was just the wind. She turned back to the machines and saw deep claw marks on the tunnel walls. Her blood ran cold. Those hadn't been there before. She wasn't alone, and something was watching her. The shadows inside the mine. A low hum vibrated through the tunnels. Not from the mining bots. Something else. Maria froze, her fingers tightening around the wrist device. The tunnel ahead was pitch black, the work lights flickering like dying stars. She could hear her own heartbeat, pounding in her ears. Then she heard it again. A whisper. Not wind, not machinery. A voice, soft and broken, like a radio signal struggling to come through. "Help. Us." Maria's breath caught. She turned sharply, her flashlight beam cutting through the dust-filled air. Nothing. The mining bots continued drilling, their mechanical arms clawing at the rock. Maria forced herself to breathe. "Stay calm. It's just your mind playing tricks." She checked the bot's control panel. Everything seemed normal. She just had to finish the shift and get out of here. Then, one of the bots stopped moving. Maria frowned and walked over. The display screen flickered, flashing a strange error code she had never seen before. The metal frame of the bot groaned, its arms twitching like something was jamming the system. Then, suddenly, the bot turned off completely. The tunnel went dead silent. Maria's skin prickled. She felt a presence, something just out of sight, watching her. She slowly reached for the emergency radio. "Jack, one of the bots just shut down. I don't know why." Static. Then Jack's voice came through, low and tense. "Maria, don't move." Her stomach tightened. What's wrong?" Jack's voice was quieter now. "Look up." Maria's blood turned to ice. Very, very slowly, She tilted her head back. High up, near the ceiling of the tunnel, long clawed fingers gripped the rock, motionless. And hanging there, watching her with empty, hollow eyes, was something that used to be human. The truth about the vanished workers. Maria couldn't breathe. The thing above her didn't move, but she could feel its gaze, empty, unnatural, wrong. Its body was twisted, its limbs too long, its fingers ending in razor-sharp claws. The face, it had once been human. A deep, guttural, clicking sound echoed through the tunnel. Maria's instincts screamed at her to run, but she stayed frozen, her hand hovering over the control panel of the wrist device. If she moved too fast, would it attack? Her radio crackled. Jack's voice was urgent. Maria, get out. Now. The creature's head jerked at the sound. It hurt him. And then, it dropped. Maria barely had time to react. She threw herself backward as the creature hit the ground on all fours, moving like a spider, its long fingers scraping against the metal floor. It let out a low, distorted moan, a sound that didn't belong in this world. Maria's shaking fingers slammed the emergency recall button on the wrist device. The mining bots powered up instantly. Their drills spun to life, their lights flooding the tunnel. The creature screeched and scurried backward, disappearing into the shadows. Maria scrambled to her feet, heart pounding. She turned and ran, her boots slamming against the ground. She had to get out. Jack's voice cut through the static. Listen to me, Maria. That thing, those things, they were the missing workers. Maria's stomach twisted. What? Jack's voice was grim. The mine wasn't abandoned. The workers never left. They changed. Maria stumbled to a stop, gasping for air. How? What happened to them? Silence. Then Jack spoke, his voice low. They were exposed to something buried deep in this mine, something the aliens didn't want us to find. Maria's hands trembled. She glanced down the tunnel behind her. The shadows moved. She wasn't alone. Jack's voice came through again, urgent. Maria, you need to keep moving. Because if one of them saw you, a whisper echoed from the darkness. The chase begins. The whisper wasn't just in her ears anymore. It was everywhere. Maria's pulse thundered in her chest as the sound multiplied, bouncing off the tunnel walls like ghostly echoes. More of them were waking up. She gripped the wrist device tightly, her sweaty fingers fumbling over the controls. The mining bots were still online. Maybe she could use them. Click, click, click. The sound of claws scraping against metal sent a shiver down her spine. Then, movement. From every shadowed crevice, from every tunnel branching off into the darkness, they emerged. Pale, contorted figures, once human but now twisted into something unnatural. Their skin was stretched too tight over elongated bones, their eyes hollow and sunken. And they were fast. Pale, contorted figures, once human but now twisted into something unnatural. Their skin was stretched too tight over elongated bones, their eyes hollow and sunken. And they were fast. Maria turned and ran. Her boots pounded against the metal floor as she sprinted through the tunnel, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The creatures followed, their inhuman limbs bending the wrong way as they scuttled after her. Jack's voice crackled through the radio. Maria, listen. There's an emergency lift ahead. Take it down to the control center. I'll override the system and open a way out. Maria didn't hesitate. She rounded a corner, nearly slipping on the dust-covered floor. Up ahead, a rusted elevator shaft stood against the rock wall. The creatures were right behind her. One lunged. She felt claws slice through the air inches from her back. She threw herself forward, diving into the elevator. Her shoulder slammed against the control panel. The emergency button lit up red. For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then, the lift jerked violently and dropped. Maria clutched the side rails, her stomach twisting as the old machinery screeched in protest. The last thing she saw before the doors slammed shut was a dozen glowing eyes staring at her from the tunnel above. But even as the lift descended, Maria knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Because something else was waiting for her below. A mother's final gamble. The lift shook violently, metal groaning under its own weight. Dust rained down from above as Maria gripped the side rails, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The creatures hadn't made it inside, but she could still hear them. Click, click, click. Their claws scraped against the elevator shaft, following her. The old machinery groaned as the lift slowed, and then, without warning, stopped. Maria's stomach twisted. She wasn't at the bottom yet. The emergency panel flickered. A red warning light flashed, signaling a malfunction. Then, a new sound, not from above. From below, a deep, slow breathing. Maria swallowed hard, forcing herself to look through the cracks in the rusted elevator doors. The control center was just beyond the glass walls of the mining hub. It was filled with ancient, flickering monitors, tangled cables, and forgotten machinery. The power was still on, but she wasn't alone. Something huge moved in the shadows. Maria's fingers trembled as she reached for the emergency release lever. If she didn't move now, she'd be trapped between two nightmares. She yanked the lever. The doors slammed open. She lunged forward, hitting the ground just as something massive rushed toward her. A thunderous roar shook the control center. Maria scrambled to her feet, her mind racing. This wasn't like the others. This one was bigger, stronger, and it had been waiting for her. Jack's voice crackled through her radio. "Maria, listen. You have to destroy the mine. It's the only way to stop them." Maria's eyes darted around the room. There, a terminal labeled Core Detonation Protocol. She ran toward it. But the creature charged. The floor shook as it slammed against the walls. Its hollow eyes locked on her. Maria reached the control panel, her fingers flying across the unfamiliar alien text. The screens flickered. "Security override engage." Jack's voice came through again. "Maria, you have 30 seconds before the mine goes up. You have to get out." Maria turned. The elevator was broken. The creatures above were coming. The monster below was hunting her. She had one chance. Her eyes locked onto a ventilation shaft near the ceiling. It was a tight fit, but it was her only way out. The creature lunged. Maria jumped, gripping the edges of the vent, pulling herself up with every ounce of strength left in her body. Below, the creature howled in frustration. Maria crawled through the vent, the countdown ticking away in her ear. 10 seconds. She could see light ahead. The exit. 5 seconds. The shaft trembled as the explosion began. Maria threw herself forward, feeling a blast of heat at her back as the mine erupted behind her. Then, silence. For a moment, she couldn't tell if she was still alive. Then she gasped. She was outside. The mine was gone. But she was still breathing. The human spirit triumphs. Maria lay on her back, gasping for air. The sky above was no longer blocked by rock and metal. It was open, endless. She had made it. Behind her, the Vorthen mine was gone. A deep rumbling echoed through the air as fire and debris swallowed the tunnel she had escaped from. Everything inside was buried forever. She turned her head. A figure approached. Jack Carter. His face was covered in dust, his expression tense. Maria. His voice trailed off when he saw her, bruised, exhausted, but alive. She forced herself to sit up, wincing. Did it work? Jack nodded. The mine is sealed. Whatever was down there, it's not getting out. He exhaled deeply, shaking his head. "I can't believe you did it." Maria let out a weak, bitter laugh. "I had no choice." She looked at her hands, shaking, covered in dirt and blood. She had risked everything, faced things that no alien, no other human, had ever dared to face. And she had won. Jack crouched beside her, pulling something from his pocket. He pressed a small credit chip into her palm. enough money to save Leo. Maria's breath hitched. Leo. Tears burned in her eyes. She had fought monsters, outrun death, and risked everything. For him. Jack stood, offering her a hand. Come on. Let's get you home. Maria took his hand and stood on unsteady feet. She glanced one last time at the destroyed mine, the place where aliens had refused to work, the place where humans were thought to be too weak to survive. And yet, in the end, it was a single mother who had saved them all. As she walked away, whispers of her impossible survival would spread across the stars. A new kind of legend, a reminder to every alien in the galaxy. Humans never give up.